So let me give you another example and you'll realise pretty quickly why psychologists are simultaneously the most fucked up as well as some of the most brilliant people on the planet. Good morning world. Just flown into Canberra Airport from Sydney. It was like the early morning flight that goes out of Sydney around 7 AM, so that means you've got to get to the airport pretty freaking early, and it was one of those wet, miserable mornings in Sydney, heaps of rain, fat clouds, all dark and everything. And these kind of early morning flights are pretty funny because it's a bit like taking the bus. You know, it looks kind of glamorous taking lots of aeroplanes, but it's basically just like a bus ride. Everyone just gets on, everyone's pretty somber and what have you. And then you arrive in Canberra and we're ready for meetings and stuff. You can see today I'm dressed a little bit differently to normal, totally suited up. And that's because I'm actually meeting with some government people. So the key message for today was around, you know, psychological biases, which is such an interesting thing, right? You know, most of the time I'm just a kind of jeans and collared shirt kind of person, but you know, the audience that I'm talking to today are different. You know, they're used to seeing people wearing suits, even ties, so I haven't got a tie on, so I'm possibly even slightly underdressed for that. It's actually really important to realise, you know, that depending on the audience who you're talking to, you should actually prepare completely differently. It's actually a critical fact, because when, you know, you've heard that people form their judgments of you in like the first 8 seconds of meeting you, and it's absolutely true, because we all have reference points in our lives. So if I rocked up today wearing shorts and a t-shirt, what's the first thing they're going to think? First thing they're going to think is that I'm not serious, because it's not immediately relatable to the work context that they're used to. Hence, you know, suit, shiny black shoes, because that's what they're familiar with seeing. So before you go into any sort of situation like an interview, like an important meeting, you should research like the people who are going to be there, the company that you're meeting with, the people that you're going to be meeting with. Try to get to understand what sort of things they might expect. And then you can actually make a conscious decision about whether you want to fit within that kind of context that they're familiar with, because it's easier to relate to people and things that we're familiar with, or whether you want to really just try and stand out. And of course that just depends on, you know, the type of meeting and the type of thing that you're trying to achieve. But the main thing is that you can't just leave this to chance. You've actually got to think about it. Another example is like if you're getting up to do a presentation somewhere, you know, what is your audience expecting to see when you stand up? You know, if you stand up and you're dressed in a suit, they're going to expect one thing from you. If you turn up with a baseball cap turned backwards, they're going to expect something completely different. And that expectation is actually called like an anchoring bias. You know, they are anchored on something that they are familiar with from their own experience. And if you don't fit that expectation, then they can form a negative judgment of you. So a super interesting area. Cognitive biases are something that we all should understand in our life, and definitely something that you need to understand too. So anyway, I'm off to do my meeting with government people who are awesome, but hence the suit guys. You've got to always be thinking about the cognitive bias. Meeting done. No certain outcome on that one, which is interesting, but that's often the way these things go, right? Is that you go and do a meeting, very good meeting, but then it's all in the follow-up, you know, you just got to follow it up and follow it through to the death, and that's where you'll actually get a result, so always good. So let me give you another example and you'll realise pretty quickly why psychologists are simultaneously the most fucked up as well as some of the most brilliant people on the planet. So psychologists ran this incredible experiment where they had a very handsome young man go up at random to girls about the same age on the street and basically say to them, hey, you look kind of pretty, could I have your phone number? And basically they were just trying to measure, you know, initially what his success rate was in terms of getting that phone number. And they found that it was around about, let's say, 15%. But then what they did is they got the same guy, the same handsome young man, to walk up to girls in front of a flower shop on the street, tell them exactly the same thing. Hey, I think you're pretty, can I have your phone number? And you know what they found? They found that his success rate went to like 30%, which is crazy, right? The only thing that changed was the context of the situation. And so people have a framing bias. They frame what's going on around them based on stuff that they're not even really aware of. But the lesson was this: psychological biases are incredibly powerful, and they occur even when we're not even aware that they're going on. So just depending on the situation that you're in, the place that you're in, the environment that's around you, you might not be consciously aware of it, but somewhere deep in your brain, something is aware of it, and that actually frames the situation in front of you and causes you to react in a certain way. So something as simple as putting on a suit when you're going for an important meeting, as opposed to wearing jeans and t-shirt, it seems trivial, but it's something that you absolutely need to at least think about. It doesn't mean you have to change your behaviour, but you do need to think about the consequences of the bias that will occur depending on just how you're wearing. Well, that's it. Another trip done. I'll see you next time on a life that travels. Back out into the warm Sydney sunshine. Cheerio.